I want to now take a step back and look at the political and the cultural now and how this kind of plays a part into this. And the first of the political, right? I'm seeing more and more people engage in this politically, like we were saying, betting on elections, betting on like referendums, just making being on the face of it more politically engaged because they have to make these bets. But I'm wondering, what is the outcome of this? When someone places a bet on a political kind of event, right? Does that mean they're more engaged in politics or they're less engaged in politics? What do you think?
I mean, it could be. It's sort of, it's almost like a bell curve, right? You're kind of you. It shows an interest in politics, but once you get beyond a certain level of engagement with it, then you're really kind of im impoverishing your understanding of politics by treating it as just a way of potentially working out what's going to happen in the future. I've heard lots of people in the political gambling space say that the smartest people are the ones who are able to predict what's going to happen in the future, right? And there's a certain logic to that. It makes a lot of sense, but it's not visionary. It's not. It doesn't. It's pragmatism as an ideology, and I think that if you think about the really successful kind of people who engage with politics, they they grab it by the scruff of their neck and they make their own visions and narratives and turn them into things that people can participate in. And if you think about engagement in politics in terms of you know uh, activists being having discussions about how to organize, or Labour Party politicians working out how to kind of engage more with people on the doorstep, right? That is it, it's an engagement with purpose, and uh, and the gambling part of it just kind of detracts from the otherwise purposeful engagement with politics that might be going on. I'm not I'm not like diametrically opposed to gambling on politics. Not at all really. But uh, we the idea that it represents some kind of sort of wizardly brilliant sort of way to think about how politics should be conducted. It's not really what I've found. I found that people who engage with it very often wrong, and they're just faster at correcting
Hmm.
and getting on the profitable side of things. They very often have kind of quite strange understandings about what they think is going to happen, and often it they people aren't as they they think about it as a game and are often kind of not politically aligned. They're the kind of people who are more interested in competence above policy. Um, and I think we need some of those people in this world, but the idea that everybody should be that kind of person, I think would reduces our collective political acumen. And what we could do with a lot more of is people engaging in the kind of like deliberate argumentation and exploration of different ideas rather than trying to kind of distance oneself from it and only think about the way that you can kind of predict a kind of ever worsening reality.
Yeah, you mentioned gamifying politics, and I think that's so true because I see that prevalent in my generation. It's kind of like split into two camps. The camp of like on the left, kind of like generally who kind of want change and want to protest, and kind of on the right also generally who kind of want to kind of make use of what's happening in politics and kind of are cynical about the outcomes and say, you know what, if I can't help it, I might as well make money off it. And those two camps are binding each other because the other seeds are that's almost ridiculous. I think that culture of people who don't look at politics as something to be engaged in or something that we should take accountability for, but as something that's outside of yourself that you can either make money of or you can criticize in a different way and look at or intellectually kind of misses the point almost, you know?
Yeah, yeah, totally. I completely agree. And it's you can't. It's difficult to blame. Well, I wouldn't blame Gen Z people for acting like that, because it's been a cascade of failure to see change enacted, or to kind of rub up against the kind of an institutionalism and an inertia that means that I'm 41. I think I, it's almost all disappointments in politics since I started, but since I became interested in it. It seems and in the world where we our politicians have less power to do things, we looking to try and make kind of radical changes and things. It's it's sad it's sad that the kind of growing way of engaging with politics is one that deliberately stands on the kind of sidelines of thinking about it. But the other thing I have to say about it is that it's gambling on politics is the smell of fresh bread as you walk into the supermarket. There it's interesting. It's cultures on the line. It's the reason I'm studying it, but it is not where they make their money. Some of them, your Kalshis and Poly markets, they might be able to work at scale, but even those ones will be they're trying to move into other financial markets as much as possible. There's the the getting engaged in political gambling is seen as a pathway into people engaging in other forms of gambling, and the more forms of gambling that you engage in, the higher the likelihood of losses. um and once you've got money in a wallet, in an account, it's very easy for that money to then be shifted out, because there's no politics going on this week. I'm instead, and the football season is over. Well, let's try one of these online slots, and then then money it's like it's like a metronome of losing money after that. So we shouldn't overestimate their kind of financial and cultural importance, but we should recognize that they have a kind of they have a power to entice and to bring a kind of engagement with people, but people don't have the time to understand it as well enough to really make money from it potentially, or they just don't have that faculty in them anyway. And not everyone can make money on them, and the people who have more money to put into them, they can more easily kind of mop up money uh, in political gambling markets. And once those people are kind of engaged and on the website, it's very easy to convert them into other kinds of gamblers where there is lots and lots of money to be made, um, and your chances of making it are much lower.
Yeah, no, I feel like, yeah, I think looking at it like from the outside, it just kind of seems like it's a kind of a trend, and it seems that the trend is going to keep on going. The kind of the pipeline that you discovered, you kind of talked about, it starts from like even like Klarna, even like buy now, pay later, and then Venmo transactions, and all these different ways and systems that like these financial slash gambling systems are kind of pervasive in our life and our culture, which is kind of innocuous and innocent from the offset, almost there to help you. But I think once it becomes so kind of pervasive in our culture, we don't even realize this is intent. We don't even see it as gambling. We kind of see it as kind of like a financial system. To kind of to talk about that point a bit, I currently the UK kind of makes a distinction between gambling and finance, about more than the US at least. Do you think that distinction is important?